games sure do rise above the rest. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're doing another bland list that... Okay, I'm just kidding. Seriously, WatchMojo, maybe you guys could have better content if you didn't feel the need to upload a video every freaking day. Anyway, many of you may have noticed that I'm an opinionated asshole. While I do review movies every now and then, it's obvious that my main passion is video games, and I feel like a good way to understand someone's perspective on things is to know what they consider quality. If you know what kind of games I love, then you can understand why I may form the opinions that I do when I'm reviewing. So today, I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite games of all time. Now, by no means am I saying that these are definitively the best games of all time, nor am I saying you even have to like any of them. These are just the games I can pop in any day and enjoy, or the ones that invoke the most response out of me. There is one rule for this list though. One game per franchise. If I didn't do that, this list would be cluttered and lack variety. Alright, now let's get personal, guys. Okay, well, maybe not that personal. These are my top 10 favorite games of all time. Number 10. Hitman Blood Money. I picked this game up on a whim and was not disappointed. I never played a Hitman game before, but after playing this, I became a die-hard fan of this series. I have played and enjoyed all of them, but Blood Money is still my favorite. The story is confusing in the way it's told, but the level design is fantastic. The missions are fun and offer a lot of ways to eliminate your target. And unlike Absolution or the 2016 game, they aren't obviously telegraphed. I also love the different settings for the levels. Going from a cruise ship to a casino to a suburb to the fucking White House is just awesome. The weapon customization system is great for encouraging players to be as stealthy as possible in their first playthrough, so they can be fully armed crazy people in their second playthrough. They do a good job fleshing out some of your targets with mission info, and some of the events you can trigger in each level are a lot of fun too. I really like that aspects of the plot are dealt out to the player in the background of each mission, making what seems like harmless background noise grow in significance as the story progresses. The AI can be buggy at times, but it doesn't detract from the hours of fun this game offers, and the soundtrack is just gorgeous. I'm a sucker for ironic music choices, but even without the irony, this music is beautiful. It's definitely not my favorite story of the Hitman series, but the presentation, the levels, and of course the gameplay elevate it above all the others. Number 9. Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, and Yellow. Like many people in the 90s, I got caught up in the Pokemon craze. And maybe it was a phase, as I haven't played any Pokemon games since Fire Red and Leaf Green, but that doesn't change how much I love the first generation of Pokemon. Back then, Nintendo dared us to catch them all. It was marketing evil genius, and it worked because that's what we all did. We linked our Game Boys up and traded the exclusive Pokemon and battled each other hardcore. Taking all the marketing out of the equation, the original Pokemon games were still a lot of fun. They offered one of the most expansive adventures you could have on the Game Boy. And unlike a lot of other Game Boy games, you never felt like you were settling for less. You got a full adventure in the palm of your hands. The world was packed with Pokemon to catch and trainers to battle. Watching your Pokemon grow from level to level is so fulfilling. What makes this game extra genius is that Pokemon double as collectibles, so it gave you more of a reason to just keep exploring. I remember running into Moltres by accident and nearly shitting my pants in excitement. These one-of-a-kind Pokemon added wonderful tension to the battles. Let's not forget that this is some of the best Game Boy music you'll ever hear. Another wonderful aspect of these games is the glitches. The glitches in these games make them different kinds of games. You can play it the regular way, or you can play it exploiting glitches along the way and still enjoy it. Those are the best kind of games because they create two games in one. One intended and one unintended. I should bring up that I did play Gold and Silver and I loved them too, but the original series seems to be the one I always go back to. And while I did outgrow Pokemon past the Johto region, it will still hold a soft spot to me. I will say though that the new Pokemon games coming to the Nintendo Switch have made me want a Pokemon game for the first time in over 15 years. So, who knows, maybe I'll come back to the world of Pokemon soon enough. Number 8. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Get that fucking horse shit out of here. Yes, the original Battlefront 2 is amazing. This game does such a fantastic job putting you in the middle of a real Star Wars battle. The graphics are excellent, the planets are awesome, and the space battles make you feel free and disoriented. It's amazing. The campaign is fun and well voice acted, adding a lot of life to the 501st Division. Instant action offers a lot of variations on the traditional battle mode. You can play as other races like Ewoks, and you can go all-out heroes vs villains in assault mode. While instant action is awesome, Galactic Conquest is easily my favorite mode. Being able to travel the galaxy, growing stronger as you progress, is just awesome. It also utilizes the prequels perfectly. Those movies reduce the Force into nothing but video game powers, which sucks for a movie, but obviously translated well to the game. Sure, the difficulty could be harder, and yeah, playing as a Jedi can be a little stiff at times, but the different Force powers are great. I really love that your account gets rewarded with buffs when you keep unlocking the same achievements. It just encourages constant replay, and I can pop this game in any day and have hours of fun. The first Battlefront is also great, but the sequel just improved on everything. It's so sad that we never got a Star Wars Battlefront 3, and it's even sadder that the Star Wars license was given to one of the worst major developers working today, but none of that will take away from what an amazing experience the original Battlefront series was. Number 7. Super Mario 3. Man, it was hard picking just one Mario game for this list, but I had to give it to Mario 3. Just because it's the one I've played the most. It's hard to know what to even say about it, but it's a classic. The level design is just superb, and the difficulty rises in the most perfect way as you progress. The platforming and the controls are solid, and the raccoon tail power-up is just one of the best mechanics introduced in the series. The board game style overworld that later Mario games used was introduced here, and you can see why they kept using it. Not only does it help flesh out each world and give them their own sense of identity, but it really complements the multiplayer aspect of the game. You can either work together to save the princess or race to the finish. The music is just great, and the sprite work is so perfectly stylized that I don't even notice that it's an 8-bit game half the time. Buying upgrades from shops, playing mini games, and finding shortcuts are all great and help give you that extra push for later levels, and goddamn those levels will kick your ass. Finding the hidden secrets to give yourself more lives and coins is just so exhilarating, and you'll find yourself redoing the same level, trading one of your lives to unlock 8 extra ones. I really can't think of any negatives in this game. This is one of the most perfectly crafted games of its time, and maybe of all time. It's pure platforming fun at its best. Number 6. Super Smash Bros. Melee. I love every game in the Super Smash Bros. Series, but I always find myself coming back to Melee as my favorite. It's hard to say why. The fighting mechanics are very well balanced, and I never felt like I died a cheap death. The game was just so perfectly adapted for the GameCube controller that people to this day can't imagine playing any Smash Bros. Game without it. The menu design is sleek and smooth. It just feels so cool. The sheer amount of different battlefields is almost overwhelming. It got to the point where I would unlock a course after I thought there couldn't possibly be any more. This game helped raise awareness for the Fire Emblem series in the West when they added Marth and Roy. This game also introduced the OG Echo Fighters like Ganondorf and Falco. Yeah, I know some people don't like the Echo Fighters, but I never cared. They are extra fan service in one of the greatest fan service series in gaming history. It goes without saying that the multiplayer is great, but I think the thing that I love the most about Melee is the single player aspect of it. It's not overly reliant on multiplayer like the later ones are. You can play single player with this game and still get the full experience. Classic mode is great, but I freaking love adventure mode. Playing as Link platforming in the Mushroom Kingdom is just one of the coolest things ever. I wish they would bring this mode back. The scenario modes are also great, giving you fun challenges to do for your own satisfaction. This game also introduced the iconic Smash Bros. Trophies, and I never get tired of collecting these. They just look so cool. What I really love about the trophies in Melee is that the fighters' trophies are stylized after the original versions of the characters. So Samus looks like Metroid Samus and the Ice Climbers are 8-bit blocks. It's a perfect homage to the origins of where these characters came from. Sure, there aren't any final smashes and not as many characters, but this game was so good that it didn't need them. The charm of this game is just timeless, and that's why I still love it. Number 5. Chrono Trigger. I remember when I first played Chrono Trigger, I thought it was okay, but going back to it made me realize how great it is. The characters are all wonderful, and the art style of Akira Toriyama complements them perfectly. Not only do they work well off each other in cutscenes, but they work well together in combat. One of the coolest parts about Chrono Trigger is the characters being able to combine their abilities for bonus damage. It adds a feeling of teamwork not usually seen in single-player RPGs. Not only that, but the lack of random battles and the emphasis on your position in combat really helped Chrono Trigger stand apart from the other Squaresoft games of that time. The soundtrack is some of the best on the Super Nintendo. At times, it's peaceful and wonderful, then it's dark and menacing, and god damn, the main theme just gets you pumped up for an awesome time-traveling adventure. Going through time, recruiting allies, and exploring their backstories just adds so much to the experience. This is an RPG that knows when to call it quits, as it's actually on the shorter side, but it never feels too short or too long. It's just the right balance. The story will take you through emotional highs and lows as you do things like try to give Robo a purpose in life, or help Frog become the knight he deserves to be. You can help Meryl reconnect with her father, and even help Luca save her mother. All the characters suffer a loss, and without giving it away, one character suffers a loss so great that it will leave you saying, "That didn't just happen." Chrono Trigger is a classic for a reason, and I freaking love it. Number 4. Skies of Arcadia. Fucking Christ, I love Skies of Arcadia. This is easily my favorite Dreamcast game. What's cooler than pirates? Sky Pirates, bitch! The story is very traditional RPG, but the setting is what sets it apart from the others. It's a unique fantasy world where you fly boats through the sky from floating island to floating island. The world below the clouds is shrouded in terror and mystery. This is like the precursor to Skyward Sword. The combat system of this game is great. Sure, it has the classic turn-based combat, but it also offers ship battles where you can battle your airship against another, and the crew of your ship essentially acts as your buffs. Of course, magic plays a big role in this game, and it levels up in a simple but effective way. The more that you use a specific type of spell, the more you'll progress with that category of magic, so it essentially lets you build up which magic each character will focus. And when it comes to the characters, oh, fuck me sideways, this has to be one of the most likable casts in video game history. They are all so enjoyable to be with. Each character has a unique identity and is highly expressive. The art style and the tone of this game makes it feel like you're playing an awesome Saturday morning cartoon. Like, this would air in between Teen Titans and Avatar: The Last Airbender. While at first I didn't like characters like Drachma or Enrique being temporary party members, it works well here because they are there when they are needed and lets the focus remain on the main trio of Vice, Aika, and Fina. These three play so well off each other and feel like real friends, and despite the wonderful lighthearted tone of this game, it still manages to invoke a lot of emotions and get dark at just the right moments. It's simply wonderful. Now, while I did say that this is my favorite Dreamcast game, I will admit that I prefer the GameCube version of this game because the random encounter rate on the Dreamcast version is simply too high, and this is coming from someone with a real tolerance for random encounters. Regardless, this is a must-play for RPG fans, and not playing any version of this is simply depriving yourself from a one-of-a-kind experience that will leave you eager for more adventure. Number 3. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Super Smash Bros. Melee introduced the Fire Emblem series to us in the West, and I was hooked right away. I loved the Game Boy Advance games, but that love turned to adoration with the Tellius series. It's hard to view Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn separately because they tie into each other so well, and while I do think that Path of Radiance is probably objectively the better game, I think the story of Radiant Dawn makes it my favorite in the series. The stories all follow a common theme of redemption. The Dawn Brigade tries to redeem the nation of Dayan, Olyncia tries to redeem herself as the Queen of Crimea, the Grail mercenaries work together to redeem the Laguz, and they all come together at the end to redeem themselves in front of the very goddess who created them. There are 4 separate but equally captivating stories in this game, and it offers different viewpoints. This really comes to fruition in the 3rd story, where we are forced to have friends fight friends. They obviously don't want to, but their position in the war and their loyalty to their nations forced them to fight people whom they called comrades only 3 years ago. It's such a perfect emotional drain on the player because, much like the characters in the game, you just want the fighting to end and for everything to go back to how it was. The story really covers everything from interpersonal character drama to politics, corruption, prejudice, war, and religion. It makes the world feel alive, relatable, and functional. You can draw so many parallels to things in our own world, and it's not overly ham-fisted. It's presented in a natural way. The characters are all so great. They have true emotions, goals, and motivations. Ike is a wonderfully simple protagonist who just wants to do good things, but he never comes off as bland or average. He is the leader that you'd want for your army. The character interactions never come off like fan service or over the top. It all feels natural. Getting to the gameplay, it's improved almost everything from Path of Radiance. The Laguz units are more useful here, and being able to mix and match different skills really lets you customize each unit just a little bit more. This Fire Emblem game also offers 3 different character classes instead of the usual 2. It's so satisfying to see a character like Ilyana go from a low-level Thunder Mage to an Archsage battling a Dragon King. The level design of this game is just great, and it offers different ways to beat each level, and the levels themselves are structured in a way that you'll often find yourself splitting your party up to rendezvous later on and wipe out your enemies. The final part of the game, ascending the Goddess Tower and learning the history of humanity, is just haunting. The music invokes so many emotions out of the player. It builds and builds to a conclusion that may seem rushed to those not paying attention, but once you understand the nuances of the game, it's just an ending that leaves you feeling complete. I could gush about this game all day, but it's safe to say that Radiant Dawn shines through as one of the best. Number 2. Final Fantasy VII. This is probably the least surprising one on this list because I've alluded to Final Fantasy VII being one of the greatest games of all time before, and yeah, this was fighting for the number 1 spot. A lot of fans of the series prefer 6, and I can't act like I don't understand why, because 6 is also one of my favorite games of all time, and it's just as good as 7 in different ways. But what puts 7 above it is how real the characters feel. These are some of the most human characters I've ever had the pleasure of playing as. Cloud is probably my favorite protagonist. His character doesn't seem like much at the beginning, but the way he overcomes his weakness and puts together the pieces of who he really is just an amazing experience. He goes through a very existential character arc, and when it's over, he's still a great character and isn't suddenly perfect. Hell, he might even be more flawed by the end of it. But he understands who he is and doesn't question or doubt himself anymore. But of course all the other characters are great as well. What I really love is that the first act of Final Fantasy VII is structured almost like a road trip movie where characters try to get from point to point, but what they encounter along the way informs their backstory, from Red 13 forgiving his father at Cosmo Canyon, to Barrett confronting his past, to Aerith being reminded of her lost love. What I really love about this is that when you play the game for a second time, you pick up on what Tifa and Aerith are alluding to when they talk to Cloud, and it is just chilling. I also really love that while both Yuffie and Vincent are optional characters, they both feel essential. Yuffie is such a likable delinquent that her unrelated side quest is still one that I play every time. And Vincent may not be everyone's favorite character, but his backstory adds so many layers to the plot of this game. That's another thing I love, the plot. It's your classic complicated Final Fantasy plot, but the complexities of this work. It's not about one big bad thing happening. It's a bunch of little bad things piling on top of each other over and over again until the problem is so big it threatens the planet. It leaves you with some questions but remains totally comprehensible, and you can answer your questions through side quests that further flesh out the world and inform the characters. The combat is still probably my favorite in the series. The materia system is the perfect way to make your characters customizable without them losing their individual sense of identity, and the limit breaks are just so freaking cool. The music complements the tone of this game perfectly. No matter what the track is, the music always sounds a little off, and it just adds to the tension and uneasiness the whole tone of the game is going for. This really comes to fruition during Cloud's backstory, as it should feel peaceful, but it's all a facade and the underlying darkness and tragedy begin to come in. It's just amazing. Sephiroth is an imposing figure, and his theme just sends shivers down your spine every time he shows up. I can't say enough how much I love Final Fantasy VII, but I do hate what Square Enix has done with it. They've exploited the hell out of it without understanding what made the game so great. They've reduced the characters to angsting, brooding whiners that belong in a DC movie. It's gotten so annoying that it's tainted the image of Final Fantasy VII over the years, but don't let any of that garbage take away from what a breathtaking experience the original game was. Is it perfect? No, but the characters, the story, the gameplay, the music, everything just clicks for me, and it remains one of the finest RPGs ever crafted. Number 1. The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. It's hard to put into words why I love this game so much. For one, it was definitely one of the more unique Zelda games of its time. There's no Ganon, no Triforce, and no Zelda. There's not even a Hyrule. Instead, Link has found himself in the alternate world of Termina, a world that's very different from Hyrule but contains many of the same characters. The characters in this game are all fleshed out, which is really impressive for its time because not many people in this world feel wasted. They all serve a purpose and they intertwine into each other like a real community. They all have lives and routines, and you can become a part of their daily life and change their schedules. You get to know them and bond with them, but all of this comes with a price. In 3 days, the people you've met, the lives you've touched, the things you've done, all of it will be destroyed. The Skull Kid uses the power of Majora's Mask to bring the moon down and kill everyone. There's no reason other than the mask's sick desire for destruction and misery. Not only does this provide a villain for the game, but it also adds so much tension to everything you do. The whole game is a race against the clock to make your actions matter. You don't want to let all the people you've grown to know or the world you've come to love be wiped out for such an empty purpose. And the most haunting part of this is how the characters in the game react to this. Some characters disbelieve, even with the evidence right in their face. Others run away in an attempt to save themselves, and others resign themselves to their fate. The final hours of this game are just chilling. The music is gorgeously tragic, and you find many people taking shelter, hoping for a miracle. And no matter where you are, the dinging of the clock tower is constantly counting down towards the end. It's just beautiful. Even when you're not in the final hours of the game, the moon is always visible, and while you may forget about the inevitable destruction at times, the sky serves as a scary reminder of what's to come if you don't save the world. The overarching theme of this game is loneliness, and it informs every character. Even Link embarks on this quest originally because of feeling loneliness after losing a friend. The Skull Kid was left alone after the giants had to carry out their duties, and in this loneliness, he lashed out, and his anger and frustration became the perfect fuel for the fire that is Majora's Mask. Tattle's loneliness is caused by her separation from her brother. Andrew and Kafei have each been left feeling alone because of the tragedy that has befallen them. This theme carries to almost everyone. The darkness of this game goes beyond just being an aesthetic. It helps craft a tone not seen in any other Zelda game. It doesn't feel like this game is trying to be dark. It feels like it wants to be happy, but the world is consumed by too much chaos to the point where at times, it feels like the end of the world could almost be a blessing in disguise. The Deku Swamp has been poisoned. The Gorons are slowly freezing to death. The ocean has become murky and full of monsters, and the canyon is haunted with the souls of the dead who can't rest in peace. All of these pile on top of each other and create a world that is in desperate need of a hero. Going past what a fresh and unique world this game creates, the gameplay is excellent. Termina is so jam-packed with content that you forget how short the actual main story can be. Of course, they built upon all the mechanics that made Ocarina of Time so great, but greatly expanded on the use of masks. Every mask looks fantastic and serves a purpose. Are you out of bombs? Put the bomb mask on and break down that wall. Trying to go fast? The bunny hood will help speed things up. Do you want enemies to leave you alone? The stone mask will help you blend into the background. Of course, these are minor masks. The biggest draw was the transformation masks. It was so surreal to play as the races you met in Ocarina of Time. Playing as a Deku Scrub was surprising because they were merely enemy units in Ocarina of Time. In Majora's Mask, they are fleshed out and you grow to understand and care about them, even with how goofy they can be. Of course, being able to play as a Goron and a Zora was great too. The game gives you full reign over air, land, and sea. These awesome forms come with a price, as the masks carry the souls of deceased characters. Characters will often confuse Link for Mikau or Darmani, and it serves as a depressing reminder that their loved ones can no longer be with them. Everything comes with a price. The game takes all of these reused assets and crafts an engaging story, and what it adds is just as good. The new music for this game is just gorgeous. The Song of Healing has become a fan favorite. The Astral Observatory theme creates this childlike sense of wonder, and the Final Hours theme gives us the send-off that closes out the experience that is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I've adored this game since I played it all those years ago. I've celebrated my love for it with my wall clock, my necklace, and one of my tattoos. I own every version I could get of this game because this game is just art to me. The emotions it invokes, the characters it creates, and the world it puts us in makes Majora's Mask anything but a terrible fate. Like I said at the beginning, this is all 100% opinion based, so you don't have to agree with my picks or even like my picks. I just felt like it was good to be honest with you guys about what I like, so you can better understand my perspective when I review games. Let me know your top 10 favorite games in the comments, or top 5 if you can't decide. I'd actually like to hear what kind of games speak to my audience, and maybe you guys can recommend some games to me that I haven't played yet. I'm Ranting Spider-Man, and I'll see you guys next time.